Hey everyone. On today's episode of Amplified Wealth, Austin and I interview Ryan Edwards. We met Ryan at a conference this past fall and were struck up by his go-get-em attitude. He's a senior at the Florida Gulf Coast University. He's got a job in finance lined up, but he talks to us a lot about his blog, how he got started in this industry, and some tips and tricks for anyone who's looking to break into an industry, marketing, networking. It's chock full of great information. He also gives us some insights on where he gets his information for financial news. And even if you're not in this industry, it's a great listen for anyone, high school, college, or a young professional as well. So while most of our clients and listeners may not be of that age, hopefully their kids can learn a thing or two. So hope you all enjoy. And as always, follow, like, and subscribe where you can. Ryan, you might appreciate this, and Austin, you too, but I took a money in banking course, and it was like my sophomore year, right in the fall of 2008, when everything was, shit was hitting the fan, so to speak. And there was 1 week of coursework that we actually did at the Fed in the boardroom where they have all these meetings. Because I went to GW. It was right. It was literally 4 blocks from the Fed. And so we get in there, and at one point, someone who was coming to introduce us, everyone sat down, tell us a little bit about the building and everything. And they said, "Hey, you right there, that's where Ben Bernanke always sits." And it was pretty funny.
That's great.
Yeah,
that is cool.
Yeah. I had a money in banking class last year, which was interesting, I feel like, in this time period, because I got to see it during a rate hike. It was at the end of the rate hiking cycle, but got to really see it when there was a lot of going on, where the last 5-10 years there wasn't much going on with the Fed. Yep. So it was interesting for sure. For better or for worse, I guess. Yeah. Gave us something to talk about at least.
Yeah, it's cool to be in those historic buildings, though. The conversations that must have happened, the things that must have went down, right?
Yeah.
For years. I guess all those buildings on the National Mall were kind of rebuilt in the 70s and 80s, but...
I think there was a few fires, right? Here and there.
We were on Tuesday at the stock exchange, and inside there, the gold and everything that they used to build is insane. It's super, super nice. But they rebuilt that in 1903, they said.
Okay.
Because they had one back way before, then the same thing, a fire, and then so they had to rebuild it.
I've never been. How was it?
Oh, it was super cool. I mean, especially too because I watch TV from there every day, and then you obviously know about it being in finance. So walking inside it was really, really cool. It was definitely not just seeing it and just being on the floor was insane. There's definitely a lot of space there now because there's just so many less traders and there's not really many brokers. Mm-hmm. But it was incredible. Saw Kramer.
Oh, cool.
It was just funny just seeing the area. And so it was really fun.
Yeah, Kramer used to live a town over from me, or he has a bed and breakfast in Ocean Grove. And I used to live in Asbury Park, so I would see him at restaurants every now and then. Just a regular guy.
Yep.
Did you tell him to stop making commentary on the markets? I feel like every time he comments, it whatever he's commenting about goes the wrong way.
Yeah.
He tweeted out yesterday morning that he's feeling really bullish about the Fed announcement, and the market tanked 3%.
Wait, he tweeted that yesterday morning?
I kid you not. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They deleted that inverse. There was an inverse Kramer ETF.
Is it still around?
I think it's done.
They deleted it. It's kind of hard to track because it says buy, everything. So
I guess it doesn't work in a bull market.
Yeah.
Buy. Yeah. Just blindly following someone without any context is one of the silliest things to do in the investment world. It's like, I heard this, I should buy it. It's like, well, do you know anything about their situation compared to yours? It's everyone wants to make money, I guess, but what's the risk level associated with that? So,
all right, you want to get started here?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's
get started.
Nick, cue the music. My name is Austin Hagaman, and I'm here with my co-host Adam Armstrong. And today we have Ryan Edwards here as our guest. Is it Edward or Edwards?
Edwards.
So I put my Edwards with an S. Okay.
Yes.
Edwards. He is a senior at Florida Gulf Coast University, where he is pursuing a double major in finance and economics. He is a writer, having his own blog and also writing for a few other companies. Adam and I ran into Ryan at a restaurant during lunch, waiting for a conference to begin, and it turns out we were both going to the same conference, and we were just getting to know Ryan. What's it like being a finance student, right? How's the job market going? And it seemed like he had it all figured out. So, which was actually pretty refreshing. We're going to get into it, but it's inspiring to see someone like you, Ryan, who has been able to take charge of your career while still in college. That's something we hope our listeners can pass on to their own kids. And I think, both young people and even parents can learn from your proactive approach to building connections and creating value early on. And we just, Adam and I were talking after the fact, we came back to our the producer Nick on our marketing team, and we're like, wouldn't it be cool to do a show just in the shoes of somebody who is a college student who has seems to have it going on, right? Seems to be making a lot of the right steps, just so our listeners can just take something off of that, maybe share this with their kids or share this with those young adults that they have, maybe even people who've graduated college already, because I think there's at least a little nugget here that I think everyone can get a little something out of.
Definitely.
But welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for the nice introduction, and it was great meeting you guys in Future Proof. I think you guys were probably the first two people I met there. I remember it was that Sunday afternoon, and was just sitting there watching football, and we started chatting. So that was great, and I'm glad we're able to do this.
I don't think I'd even checked into my hotel yet. It was like literally the first stop. I'm like, Austin, let's go. I need some food. Straight off a 6 a.m. flight from the East Coast. Yeah.
So looking at your blog, right, you've interviewed some pretty important people. I was actually going through it before and laughing, like what am I going to see next? You've interviewed Stephen Moore, President Trump's economic advisor, Claudia Sahm of the Sahm Rule, right? She worked at the Federal Reserve. She developed the Sahm Rule, which is widely held as an economic indicator for identifying recessions, right, across the industry. Dan Ives, who's the managing director and senior equity research analyst at Wedbush Securities.
Great blazers, by the way. Nick, we got to get Nick to put up a picture of
Liz Ann Sonders, Josh Brown. It's just a roster of CNBC personalities, and you are just a senior at a college in Florida, right?
Yes.
Not even close to New York City, right? Not even close to the epicenter of where a lot of this is going on. My first question would be, what drove you down this path? How did we, like from the very beginning, how did you first develop an interest in financial literacy? And, what resources and habits have you used to kind of help build your knowledge and your apparent love for the finance industry?
Yeah, so I've always been kind of involved in it in the last 4 years. I would say it picked up more my junior year with COVID, and then senior year just following it here and there. Not much, but just following it here and there. And then I went down to Florida. Originally, I got recruited to play soccer down there, so I went down there to play soccer and knew I was going to study finance. Did not know exactly which route I wanted to go. I know there's so many different routes in the finance industry. But when I got there, I just kind of started following the market, started looking at the Wall Street Journal, watching CNBC here and there. And then I kind of just developed more of a deep passion for it as I was watching it and following it every day. And then that kind of continued through my freshman year. And then I went to London to study in my freshman summer going into sophomore year. And I think when I was there and I was kind of entrenched in the finance environment, my gym was in the financial district. I took the tube from the Bank of England every day. I kind of really developed a deeper love for it. And it just kind of continued through the summer, was following the markets a lot. And then in September of 2023, I was having coffee with one of my mentors down in Florida, and he mentioned that I start a blog. And so when he mentioned that, I thought it was a good idea. I follow the market a lot. It was kind of a way for me to put down my thoughts. And writing down my thoughts, I think, have been very helpful for myself specifically. And so that continued into the new year, and I was writing once a month, not a lot at all. And then we kind of got together, and then that's when he said, okay, I think you should do an interview and you should start interviewing people. And then after that, it kind of just kept going, and it's gone incredibly well so far.
That's great. That's great. How do you think you are differentiating yourself from, what's sort of the one standout factor that sets your blog apart? And we're going to, we'll highlight where people can find you and listen to you and read you as well. But what's one thing that you think you're trying to do that sets you apart from other blogs out there?
Well, I think the first thing is more the kind of Gen Z perspective. I know when you watch CNBC, Bloomberg, read Wall Street Journal, it's definitely you're getting from an older audience. It's for an older audience, and it makes sense, right? But for me, the kind of approach to it is, okay, the next Gen Z perspective, there's going to be obviously the wealth transfer everyone talks about. And so the idea really was to bring in a more younger perspective to it. And I think that's been amazing for me in growing it, and especially building connections, just being in college and having that more youth perspective to it. So that's what I would say is the biggest differentiator, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can tell in the way it reads too. I think that it's an easy read for me, at least. Yeah. Being in this industry, it's a little more conversational, which we published our own minute pieces that we try to say people can read in a couple minutes or less. Really, when COVID started coming out, we wanted to have a much quicker method of communicating with clients. And the goal there was not to be dense, not to be analytical. Let's put things in words that, everyone's going to understand, right? Plain English, as I kind of call it. So that's great.
Yeah.
Which is difficult. It's difficult, right? I mean, the current financial media is filled with jargon. I think the old school way of delivering financial media or even advising is to throw a lot of jargon in there, because then people think you're smart. They think you know it all, right? They're they're not going to ask as many questions, right? They're going to, oh, he's just a smart person. But in today's world of just information, you can get information right in the palm of your hand, right? People want to be able to understand it. I think it's really important. I think that's a really great skill, being able to take the jargon that you're seeing out there in the financial media and putting your own voice to it, that people would be more likely to understand and get something out of.
We write for mostly our clients, so we try and pick topics that are of interest to them. But I think there's a great market opportunity to write for, different generations, whatever generation you're talking about, and cater to them and, create that niche. We always hear that in every business, coaching session we go through is find your niche, right? And the more narrow you are, the more successful usually you end up being. So that's great. That's awesome. Yeah,
I think the idea too of it, like you were saying, is just trying to break it down where anyone could read it. And sometimes I might get caught into where it's a little bit too much, where it's, we're talking about basis points instead of percentage points and stuff like that. But I do try to break it down in a way that's more simple. I think like you said, there's so much jargon out there that makes it seem a lot more complicated than it may be. And that's just a goal that I'm trying to kind of incorporate more. So,
right. That's actually funny you say that, because I am on calls all the time with clients and other people in the industry and things like that. And it bothers me so much when someone uses basis points, 25 basis points. It's like, that's not common. For you to say 0.25% takes as much air as to say 25 basis points, right? Like,
well,
why
you
shorten it?
Right. You got to shorten it to bips. Come on,
right?
Austin.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even worse. That's even worse.
Yeah. That's the old trader in me. Yeah. So let's take a step further. I mean, what would you say to someone who maybe has a passion for writing, or wants to try and step into this, maybe our listeners are in finance or not, some other topic, but they know a lot and they have a niche audience, what sort of advice would you give to someone, student or, younger career professional trying to get started? What sort of advice would you give them? Or was there a piece of advice that was given to you that was super helpful in launching what you've started here?
I think the biggest thing is it's pretty simple. I would say it's just to start. And the reason is because I think the start is the hardest part. So like I said, the first 4 or 5 months, I was writing once a month, not much traction, not many viewers. And the whole thing of it, when I started, it wasn't really to get viewers and to get that many people to read. But it was more just writing down my thoughts. And I think that's the biggest thing, whether there's 1,000 people reading it, 10,000 people reading it, or one person reading it. I think just writing down your thoughts helps a lot. And I think especially for just retaining information, it has helped me a lot. I'm still only 21 and young, and so there's so many different things that I learn every single day. But just writing it down, I think, has helped me kind of over the last 1.5 to 2 years really understand certain things going on in the market or in the economy a lot better. Whether it was like in August with the Japan yen carry trade, writing about that and learning that, or something else, or like yesterday with the Fed meeting, just looking at different things I could write about. One, it gives me an idea to learn more and research more about different topics, but two, it also just lets me retain information more. So I would say just start, and whether you're writing it and publishing it or just writing for yourself, I think it really just helps you retain the information a lot better.
Right. It's kind of like starting out playing golf. You gotta be willing to be really bad at it and to be bad at it in front of other people. But the more you do it, right, the better you get. And Adam and I are not shy about that. We started Amplified Wealth to reach clients, right? We figured we spend an hour of our day, and if we could reach 50 clients, that makes it worth it. Yeah, now 100%. We get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of views over multiple platforms. We have states that we either don't have any clients in or have maybe 1 or 2 clients in that are one of the highest percentage states of listeners, and we have no idea why. So you just have to kind of put one foot in front of the other, I suppose. But
find a topic you like, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I could admit that I'm terrible at throwing pottery, but if I don't like doing it, I'm probably going to give up pretty quickly. So golf, I stink, but it was something I was passionate about learning it, back in the day. So that's good.
For sure.
So I think one of the cool things about your journey here is, which I think is going to pay dividends for you through your career, is how you just reached out to some of these people, right? I was talking to Adam before when we were getting our show notes together, and some of these people that you've interviewed, Adam and I never would have thought to reach out to, right? We haven't reached out to them. What kind of started that? How did that transform? How does a senior, actually, I think you're probably a junior in college when you started your first one, right? How did that go? Yeah,
so again, I like I said, in January, December of 2023, was looking at how to kind of amplify the audience and grow it. And so the idea was doing interviews. And so my mentor, we talked, and there's an event in Naples where I go to school every January, and it's called the CFA Society of Naples. We have this big forecast dinner. And so Tom Lee was speaking at the event with Megan Shu. And so I just had asked my mentor, hey, is there any way you think I could interview Tom Lee? And so thankfully he was able to help set that first interview up. And so right before they went on stage, I got to interview both of them. And so that went really good. And then it kind of continued on. Liz Ann was at another event, and I kind of communicated back and forth with a few people, and we were able to set that one up. And so those were like the 2 big ones I kind of got early on in the first few months. And then as it went on, I was just trying to think of new ways to go about it. And so I started reaching out to people with short, simple messages like, hey, I'm Ryan Edwards. I'm junior at Florida Gulf Coast, blah, blah, blah. This is my blog. I've interviewed Tom Lee, Lizanne Sonders, so-and-so. And yes, I mean, some people didn't respond, but some people did. And it kind of just kept going where I was reaching out. I watched CNBC, especially the halftime report, every day. And so I'd see people on, I'd link in with them and request most of them, or I would just send a message to a lot of them and just see, like I said, some people respond, some people didn't. And the more I kind of got people on, the more I had like kind of name traction behind the blog is, hey, I've interviewed so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. Would you like to come on? It's going to be a 5 to 10 quick minute interview. I would love to showcase you on the blog. And just kind of use that, again, the Gen Z perspective as well. And it's gone very well, and super, super grateful for every single person I've been able to interview.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Try to make it as convenient as possible for them, and then be willing to fail, I guess, right? You know, it sounds like you've reached out to a lot of people.
Yeah, and the more people you do get, right, then you can say, I've interviewed all these people and add them to the list. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you doing any sort of marketing at this point for the blog, or is it more just SEO, search engine optimization stuff that you're working on the website?
Yeah, so on the website, no specific marketing other than LinkedIn and SEO works pretty well, but no specific marketing within that. So
sure. So who's your favorite?
I don't have a favorite. I don't have a favorite. They're all great. I mean, specifically more recently, because I just saw him, Jay Woods, who is incredible. I just went to the stock exchange with him, so that was incredible. He is a great person all around, but they're all great, and I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned over the last year. It's like you see all these people on TV, they're always on TV, or they're in the Wall Street Journal quoted, or you watch their YouTube, and when you meet them in person, they're all normal, great people, and I have not had a bad experience or bad interview with anyone. Every single person that I've kind of interviewed has been incredible. So definitely not a favorite, but
definitely not a favorite.
They're all great. Right. They're all great.
How about I'm assuming you have a wish list. Who would be, who is the one person that you really want to interview that you haven't been able to interview yet?
Maybe we know them. We could reach out, put in a favor.
Yeah. Besides Adam and I.
But I think the biggest one, which we'll see if I can get it in a couple of years, but the biggest one would be Jamie Dimon for sure. I think he is the biggest staple of finance, so I think he would be incredible. But yeah, I would say Jamie Dimon is the top of the list. Yeah,
that's great.
That's
good luck in that endeavor.
Yeah, we'll see. You never know. There are a lot of different routes, but we'll see.
He's probably charging 7 figures for appearances at conferences these days, I bet.
Yeah. I don't think I have that capital behind me to get that.
Maybe one day, man.
To get that interview.
You can run. Adam, do you have someone you'd want to interview? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
That's a great question.
I think for me, it'd probably be one of the founding fathers. Talk about like anybody in the world.
Okay.
Anybody in the world, alive, I'd have to think about that. But the founding fathers came to mind because what a lesson in business, right? Think about all of the different hurdles they had to jump through, and you look back on our system and it has its faults, but they did a fair amount right with all the checks and balances.
100%.
I think it might be Jeff Bezos for me.
Bezos?
I think just the journey he's been on professionally is very interesting. Some of those, and I've heard him speak on podcasts. From the Deal Book Summit, there was one I was just listening to recently that was it was an hour long. It was really good with Andrew Ross Sorkin hosting. But he's just got so many interests and passions beyond Amazon, which everyone knows him for. Mm-hmm. The whole story behind Blue Origin, his space dreams and endeavors, I think is super interesting. Sort of genius level people like that would be very interesting to pick their brain.
I would say the other one other than Jamie, another kind of big way, but that I really like and that I've liked for the last few years, I think, just as a person and just the way he kind of goes about things, is Bill Ackman. I'm a big Bill Ackman fan. So, yeah.
Yep, he's pretty vocal on Twitter as well.
Yeah, he's grown
which I like.
over the last year. But he's great, and just the way he invests and the way he just thinks about investing, I think, is incredible.
Yep, that's a good one. It's funny. I'd probably have my top finance person, and then my top just
other tell
me how to be great person. Yeah. Teach me everything you know. No, so that's good. So let's dive into sort of financial advice, right? This is a financial podcast, and I know you've got a job lined up after school, so we can touch on that a bit. But then also just, advice for people looking to break into this industry professionally, I think would be interesting to hear some thoughts on as well.
Yeah.
So why don't you start with your background and what your plans are, your grander plans professionally are, and then we can get into some advice from there.
Yeah. So like you guys said earlier, studying finance and economics. And so this last summer, I worked at a RIA in Naples, Florida, called Moran Wealth Management. Great experience, learned a ton. And then this upcoming summer, I'll be working at JP Morgan's private bank in Greenwich, Connecticut. So looking forward to that. That'll be incredible. I got to visit the office on Monday, so that was a great experience.
Real quick, that's Moran. Do you know Chelsea? I think Chelsea works there, right?
I know Chelsea. Yeah.
Great.
So
shout out.
She actually went to my school. So
there you go. Right.
Yeah. So I know Chelsea. So then this upcoming summer I'll be at JP Morgan in Connecticut, and so I would say really for cracking the industry and kind of getting involved in the industry is the biggest thing I would say is just being able to reach out to people, but also being able to take, like, if someone doesn't respond, you can't take it to heart, you can't take it literal. Or if somebody responds and it doesn't go the way you want it to respond, you can't take it to heart. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think I have a lot of friends that we talk and they're just trying to figure out ways to go to this place or this firm or try to get an interview here or there. But they're a little nervous about like just reaching out in general. And I know that's normal, and I think that's very normal. But I think kind of when you're in college and you're trying to get into the environment, the biggest thing is just reaching out to people and talking to people and learning about the industry and the different things in the industry. One of the guys I worked with this summer, he talks to our school a lot and talks to a lot of college kids. And he said the biggest thing is when you're in college, you can text or reach out to a lot of people and just ask for an informational interview and just hear about the job, hear about the space. And the more you talk to people, the better you get at it. And that kind of sets you up for if you have an interview in the future, or somebody you might ask for an informational interview likes you or likes the conversation with you and says, hey, we're hiring interns here, we're hiring after school here. And then they help you get a way in. So I would say the biggest thing is just reaching out and not being afraid to reach out or not being afraid to get no response. So that's what I would say.
The informational interviews are great and key.
Yeah.
I mean, I had one of my good friends, we're 35, and he asked me for an informational interview because he was planning on speaking with a friend of a friend in the DC area. And I told him all about the industry. And there's so many different paths, too, which I think is interesting. Like, you can go down trading, you can go down the analyst route, you can go research and client-facing. There's brokerage versus registered investment advisors and the differences there. So, I think the more people you talk to, the better, specifically in this industry. But I'm sure that holds weight in other industries as well.
Right. 100%. And I like the idea of not reaching out saying I want a job, but reaching out saying I want to learn from you. I pick your brain. I've seen you've had a successful career, whether they're an older person or a younger person. If they're a younger person, how did you get to where you are so quickly type of thing, buff their ego a bit. If they're an older person, I've seen you've had this long, great career. Can I take 5 minutes of your time just to kind of learn about how you got to where you are and things like that? We've all been right in that position. We've all been in the position of looking for a job once in our life. And I think, in my mind at least, when I think about it, the higher you are up on the totem pole there, the more of a kick you get out of somebody who's, I want to say lower on the totem pole, but someone like starting out in the industry, right? They have the guts to reach out to you and say, hey, can I get 5 minutes? Because you don't see that very often. And I think people that are higher up on the totem pole want to, one, they're probably there because they had the guts to ask the hard questions and to network and to push themselves out there. So they find it as a breath of fresh air. But then, two, not a lot of people are doing it. So that's like very clear and easy way to stand out.
Yeah, and kind of going with what you said with not asking for a job. Like the guy I was talking about with the informational interviews, he told me, and he could be one person that does this. I don't imagine he's the only one that does this. But he's like, if I get a first message from somebody and they're saying, hey, could I get a job? Or, hey, blah, blah, and then sends their resume right away, really just sitting there looking for a job, it's like I just delete it. I don't even look at it. Right. And he said the reason is, he said, I'd rather talk to them first, get to know them, and then if there's an opportunity present for who they are, what they like to do, then that's when you start talking about the job. So kind of going with that route of like, hey, I want to learn about the industry. I want to learn about your job, what you do, because you could be reaching out to somebody for a job and you have no idea what they do, and then it just doesn't align. So that's such a good, I feel like, piece of advice. I could be wrong, but I think that's a good piece of advice.
No, I think that's great. Like, look up people at the company on LinkedIn and see if there's any mutual connections before submitting your resume or hitting reply. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wait a day to hear back from some of these mutual, second degree connections first, I doubt they're going to fill the job in that 24-hour period when you could have been making a real personal connection instead, and then sending the resume out before they close that job posting. Or even if they do close the posting, you can always send it direct after you make that connection. So, at least in this industry, I think personal connections, being able to talk to someone, is far more important than what degrees you have or where you went to school or past job experience. It's about relationships, and at least what we do, planning and the investment strategy, you have to be able to connect to the people you're working with, because if you don't, and you don't have that trust, then you're not going to be successful in this space.
Right.
100%.
And you got to cast a wide net. You never know where the next opportunity is going to come from. I know people with large books of business who, bust their butt going out to all the different charitable events and the networking events and the this and the that. And their biggest client is someone that their brother met at the gym, right? You never know where it's going to come from. So you got to cast a wide net. You got to understand that it can come from anywhere, and you have to hold yourself as somebody who is going to gain the respect of, pretty much anybody that's in your purview, right? Because you really don't know when that opportunity is going to come knocking.
Yep.
And where it's going to come
100%.
from.
Anything else we want to touch on here?
Yeah, so, you have a job secured already. What are you most excited about?
Yeah, so it's an internship first, so
okay.
Hopefully get the return after. But, so very excited. I think it's great.
If you don't send your resume over here. Okay?
Yeah. So it's like I said, I got to visit the office on Monday. I think it'll be an incredible environment. Like just the area, the way the floor is set up, just everything. I think it'll be an incredible environment. I'm really looking forward to it because to me, I like being in that environment just in general. Like this summer, had a great time working there. I know like most of the time I'm just following the market just at home or just by myself, where I'm a very social person. I like being with people. So I think it'll be great, and just definitely learn a lot. And I think that's the biggest thing is again, in my early 20s, just the ability to learn and grow a lot in the space, I think would be incredible there. So really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, kudos to you too. I mean, like COVID was a tough time for people that needed to be out networking, interning and stuff like that. And I heard on the radio this morning, like if we had another pandemic next year, like no one would shelter in place and do all that stuff. No, it's so funny, but it's good for you for walking through that and charging through that head on. And being social in the face of some scary stuff out there.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's. I know you brought a couple things to run through here. So Austin, you get the slide deck up. Let's run through. So we got some highlights on the blog here. We talked about it, but where can people find you? I guess where should people go if they want to read some more?
Yeah. So there's two different ways. So which I'll get into, but this is my main page, which is ryankedwards.com. The K is for my middle name, Knight. And so basically what I wanted to show here was, this is the main page on the left. I just released my 2025 outlook on Monday. It's a little bit more bullish than a lot of people think.
Saw that.
And then the other one's with Stephen Moore, President Trump's senior economic advisor. And then on the right, I wanted to show as well just 4 different kind of things I write about. So in the top left corner, that's my September market commentary. So every month, I've done this since I started the blog, so I've done probably about 15 or 16 of these. I write every month, got into my market commentary, what happened in the month, what did the market do, what did treasury yields do, and what I think is going to happen in the coming months. And the other one was my thoughts on future proof, so kind of just a review on the conference where I met Austin and Adam, which was great. And then another one was, it says happy birthday, so that was my blog's 1-year anniversary, which was cool, and definitely just really cool for me to see, is I was never a writer before that, and just see all that I wrote over the years. And then the other one was an interview with Alan McKnight, so that was just another thing that I like to do, is just interview people. So it kind of showcased all 4 different styles of writing.
Yeah, that's great. So question for you, for individuals that are your age, how do you get invited to these conferences?
So it's very similar to the reaching out. So with Future Proof, Matt Middleton, who's the founder and CEO, incredible guy. So he started following me on LinkedIn. I forget the exact day, maybe in April or May. And so when I saw him like my post, I clicked on his profile and it said, oh, he's the CEO of Future Proof. And I remember watching Future Proof the last 2 years on CNBC, just seeing this cool conference. It's on the water. It's got the sun in the background, because Halftime Report always shoots there. And so when I saw that, I just reached out to him and I said, hey, blah, blah, I'm Ryan. I sent him my blog and I was like, I would love to come out to Future Proof. I've been watching it the last 2 years. Is there any way we could do a student ticket? And he was like, yes, I think that's a great idea. He got me connected with one of the people at Future Proof, and we got a student ticket aligned. And so that was incredible, going out there and just kind of getting to see it and be involved. And also the best thing too was being able to meet a lot of people that I've just interviewed online in person. So that was good. And then also the Money Show, which I've become very kind of in with, and we're actually starting a podcast with the Money Show in about a month, which will be fun. But with them, this guy, Sam Stovall, who's the chief investment strategist at CFRA Research, he put me into contact with them. And then I was emailing back and forth with them throughout the summer, and we were trying to align whether I'd be able to go to their conference in Orlando. And as I saw their email, on the bottom of their email, it said they were in Sarasota. And so I was near the area, and so I reached out to them and I said, hey, blah, blah, instead of meeting online, why don't we just grab coffee? And so we got coffee, went into the office, met all the people in the office, and then we kind of just hit it off. And it just kind of kept going from there. So both awesome. Have been just kind of the reach out and just see if it works, and it's gone very well so far with those two.
That's great.
Definitely good lessons for listeners.
Yeah, I've been seeing more and more students go to these conferences. Even I went to Schwab Impact, I saw a lot of student badges on. So I was curious. Does the conference pay for you to come, or is it you pay it personally and they just give you the ticket?
The ticket for Future Proof and Money Show is free for me, but obviously the flight and everything pay for that. But yeah. And then Schwab Impact, I did not make it there. It was too close to Thanksgiving, but I heard that was a great one. I know Kevin Gordon at Schwab is one of my good friends, and he was saying that he speaks there, and he says it's a great conference. So I got to make it out there hopefully next year.
Yeah,
it's a good one. I've been in the past before. Yeah. So LinkedIn, do you post? Are you pretty active on LinkedIn as well?
Yeah. So LinkedIn, I post about 2 to 3 times a week, and that's kind of my main way to grow the blog. That's really how I started growing the blog. And it's just that's my main way of communication, main way of reaching out to people, is through LinkedIn, and it's gone very well so far. And I've kind of enjoyed trying to get to learn that social media. It's very different than most. But yeah, LinkedIn's where I post the blog, where I reach out to people. So
awesome. And what's the Investing Authority? Talk to us about that.
So, and then on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, I run this account, which is the Investing Authority. So when I was in California, I got introduced through Jay Woods to this company called the Investing Authority. And so basically they do investor relations for ETFs. So new ETFs more specifically, or ETFs that are trying to grow their audience. So basically the Investing Authority has one of the largest retail investor audience there is on Twitter, Discord, Reddit, newsletters. And so I met with them, and so I run their Twitter, run their newsletter, and so it's just another way of kind of getting communication out there. And so that's been really fun, just to kind of get involved in that other social media platforms as well.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of irons in the fire. And then Wolf is another one. Are you involved with that, or is this just something you read and follow?
No, so Wolf Financial and the Investing Authority. So Gav, who runs Wolf Financial, he is the co-founder of the Investing Authority. So what I was showing here is I write both the newsletters. So I write Wolf Financial's newsletter on Monday, which you could get. I could give you guys a link to subscribe to that, and then also I write the Investing Authority's newsletter Monday and Friday. So Wolf Financial is very, very big on Twitter. They're over 400,000 now, and so that's kind of how we work together. Is where I help them write the newsletter here and there, help them with the Twitter and everything. So it's been super fun, and everyone at Wolf at Investing Authority are great. So it's been super fun to kind of learn that space too, and then also give my views. So I got to write last week was my outlook, and so put it on Wolf Financial, and it gets sent out to a good amount of emails. So it's been definitely a cool learning experience over the last few months.
Yeah, we'll pop all these links in the show notes too, for listeners and viewers to find. But I think it's awesome. I mean, I personally, anytime I come across any sort of post, article, I read, whatever it is, hit subscribe, hit follow, and you quickly find out who you tend to gravitate towards, agree with, and the ones you don't, eventually you unsubscribe later. But the more stuff you follow, the more you get involved with. Like we said before, some stuff is going to stick, others won't.
Yep.
So where do you get your news? I mean, I see we've got another slide here of things you watch, and we
may have made a small update.
We made a little update there to pop in Amplified Wealth as well.
There we go. Yeah, no, there we go. So yeah, in the right side of it, at the top is Bloomberg Surveillance. The bottom is the halftime report on CNBC. So every morning I used to watch Squawk Box a little bit more, but then now I've kind of fully switched over to Bloomberg Surveillance. They're great, and I also get to learn so much. Like every day they cover kind of the whole world, what's going on in the economy in other countries, what's going on in America, and how they all interact. So I think that's great for information wise. And then also one thing I like about Bloomberg Surveillance is it's on YouTube. So if I start watching it at 6:30 or 7 o'clock, I can skip back 30 minutes and then just skip through all the commercials, which I don't love watching commercials. So it's just a way for me to just skip through all the commercials and keep watching it and not having to go do something else for 4 minutes while there's commercials playing. So that's one benefit of the Bloomberg Surveillance on YouTube. And also you just get to learn so much. And then halftime report on the bottom here. I think that was the one they shot yesterday, which is really cool. And I think the Halftime Report is my favorite show. I've been watching it for the last 2.5, maybe 3 years now, and I learn a ton every single day. And I think just the way it's set up with Scott as the host, and then they have their setup, and they kind of just they bicker back and forth what they think. It's great, and I think every day I try to watch it. And if I don't watch it, I listen to the podcast edition on Spotify. So really like that show. Learn a lot from that show. That's probably where I've learned a lot of my base knowledge in finance is through that show. So it is great. And then the other one is The Compound and Friends, more specifically, which is Josh Brown's podcast with Michael Batnick. But it's that one's really great, and they get a lot of really good guests. I know last week they got Rick Reeder, who is head of fixed income at BlackRock. Rick's probably my favorite person to listen to. Going back on your original question of somebody you'd like to interview, he is at the top of the list as well. He is very, very bright, and every time he speaks, I try to listen.
He's got a great story too.
Yeah. And so that's another one, especially podcast-wise, I try to listen to every Friday or Tuesday here and there. So all of those, and then also Twitter's a great source of information, I would say, for finance. I know this summer at the firm I worked at, we used Twitter a lot, just looking at charts and looking at news or economic data or what people think is going on in the market. So out of all of those, I would say those are the main sources. But yeah, CNBC and Bloomberg, watch that quite a bit throughout the day.
Awesome.
That's great.
This has been great. I think for probably those interested in finance, maybe a little bit more so, but for anyone, trying to break into an industry, anyone in high school thinking about what their college, studies are going to look like or majors are going to be, people in college who are looking for internships, I think this is going to be an awesome listen for our clients and their kids as well.
Oh yeah, you applied this to the finance industry, but it could be applied to really any industry, right? It's just a basic formula, and you have to have the guts to go out and do it. So you want to do what's new, Adam?
Yeah, let's get into it. So much like some other folks, on here that we're highlighting, but we like to just leave our listeners with something of interest outside of the world of finance. So anything on your mind, or you want Austin and I to go first? Happy to share.
Yeah. Let's hear what you guys have first.
All right, I'll jump in. I took Maxine, my older daughter, she's 4.5, skiing for the first time this past weekend. And I'm a big skier. I grew up skiing. I lived in California for 5 years and organized a ski house share in Lake Tahoe. So this was like, when I found out we were having a baby, I started planning like this 30-year vision of how, I went skiing with my dad as a kid. How am I going to be, teaching my kids to ski and going on trips with them for years to come? So this was like the first step in a very long, plan that I've got for myself and my family of teaching my family how to ski. So that was kind of cool. Great. But it really, watching her go, like for the first part, they're just learning how to walk and do, pizza and align their skis and stuff like that. It's 20, 30 minutes of this lesson before they even went down the slopes. But it's just crazy. And the thought kind of crossed my head of how there's certain things, a lot of things actually are easier to learn when you're a kid. Athletically, maybe it's because the center of gravity is lower, they're more nimble, more flexible, etc. But ingraining some of these behaviors younger is so much more important. And it kind of got me thinking on this topic of like financial literacy is one of those things where almost the earlier you start, the better you are because of it. But it just still today blows my mind that we have no budgeting, tax, investing courses in high school or anything like that. And that was a big moment for me, and try to tie it back to finance if I could.
Yeah. So it's actually funny. So one of my buddies is a big golfer, and he has a younger kid, I think he's like 4 or 5 now. And he's really taken up to golf. And I was talking to him the other day, and I was like, that you're lucky that he actually likes to play golf and this and that. And I forget how it came up, but I asked him a question. He's like, well, I brainwashed him. I was like, what do you mean? So he started out.
He looks like a great dad. He gets to spend 6 hours uninterrupted with his kid, and he gets to do one of his own passion projects of golfing, right? And
so he leans in and like he's going to tell me a secret, and he's like, so what I do is I would take him to the golf range and maybe 5 minutes. You know when the kid's bored. As soon as they're bored, I pick them up and I say, all right, donut time. And we go and we get 2 donuts on our way home. So it started out with this kid's love for donuts. And hey, Dad, can we go get donuts? Yeah. They go to the driving range, hit a few balls, and they go get donuts. And now, the kid has a natural swing, and he can barely run.
It's Pavlov's dogs with golf, but and the reward is donuts. It's like every time he says donuts, it's like the guy starts. When he's 25 and he gets his license, he's going to hear the word donut and go drive to the driving range.
There you go. So maybe that'll solve the financial literacy issues. Sit your child down with a tax return and some donuts, and before you know it,
maybe they'll start wanting to look at it.
Exactly.
That's great.
Exactly.
That's great.
So, what you got for us, Ryan?
You go for it.
Yeah, for me, so I would say, I know we kind of talked about it before we started, but on Tuesday I got to go to the New York Stock Exchange, which was an incredible experience, just for me personally, financially, everything. And I also got to bring some friends and family, so that was an incredible experience. Got to learn so much about the history of the exchange, which I thought was the coolest thing. Got to see the Button Woods Agreement. So there were a lot of things inside that were just an incredible experience. I think being on the floor, just walking up the steps onto the floor was just so cool, just seeing it with my own eyes for the first time. So that was the recent experience that I've had that I would just say was just one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. So
yeah, I can imagine the history that must be in those walls and on the floors, right? And from what I understand, I've never been. From what I understand, it's a really impressive building.
I've been to the NASDAQ, and I got to ring the opening bell at the NASDAQ, but that's in Times Square, not the history that's down in Wall Street at the Stock Exchange. So very cool. Jealous of that.
Inside it, with just how it's built and how it looks and just everything is so intricate. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I'm going to take us off of finance. I don't know if you guys have been seeing this. I've been seeing a lot of banter about how Coca-Cola created Santa Claus on social media. Have you guys seen that? So
I'm not.
I have not.
Okay. Well, maybe just because I love throwing on the tinfoil hat, but I'm scrolling through Instagram. I see this video of this professor talking about how Coca-Cola invented Santa Claus, right? And it's all a marketing scheme. And so, tinfoil hat's on, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I Google it. Turns out Coca-Cola didn't create Santa Claus or invent Santa Claus, but they did basically that standard vision we have of Santa Claus. That is not a Coca-Cola invention, but something Coca-Cola spurred, right? I guess previously there were many different types of Santa Clauses out there. There was around the world there was a tall, skinny Santa Claus. There was an elf type Santa Claus. There was even like a scary Santa Claus. Yeah, I feel like I'm describing the Spice Girls here, but no. But then in
40.
Yeah, but then in I guess the 1930s, Coca-Cola was trying to solve an issue. There were their sales were up a lot in the summer months and in the fall and the spring, but they noticed people weren't thinking of Coca-Cola as a winter drink. So they wanted to have a campaign to associate Coca-Cola with Christmas. And I guess what I left off too was even the Santa Claus, the colors that we know of, sometimes it was more green, sometimes it was more brown, etc. So, Coca-Cola's marketing geniuses got together and they said, well, what if we, create the Santa Claus? So they hired someone to do it. This guy, Hagaman Sundblom, might be saying his name wrong, but this guy took inspiration from the poem by Clement Clark Moore called A Visit from St. Nicholas, which you probably are thinking, oh, I've never heard of that, but it's actually 'Twas the Night Before Christmas is what we know it as. But so he took that image and said, you know what, this actually meshes very well with Coca-Cola, right? You have the red, you have the big, you know, the guy who seems like he's fun at parties, right? He's warm, he's big, you want to hug him. The rosy cheeks, more of that red. But Coca-Cola then took that, and that's how, you know, that vision of Santa Claus came to be more globally known, which I thought was really interesting.
Wow. No, I didn't know that at all. That's funny.
Yeah.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Yeah, the more you know. That's for sure.
So
I wonder what else is out there that's just been like our current vision.
So many things.
The image of it is warped by some sort of brand marketing, you know, underlying tinfoil hat reasoning that we just wouldn't even think of.
So many things. It's all marketing. It's like
on that note,
it's all marketing.
When people think of podcasts, they think of Amplified Wealth, right?
Yeah.
There you go. So, no, it was great having you on, Ryan. To our listeners, yeah, it was a real pleasure.
Thanks.
To our listeners, we hope today's conversation inspires you to share this podcast with, the young people in your life, right? I think there's, something to learn here. Ryan, we'll certainly be following your career. We wish you the best. Please keep watching Amplified Wealth for all of your finance news and updates and commentary. And for everyone else, please remember to like, share, and all that fun stuff.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Thanks, Ryan, again.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah.